Mr. Murray was an accountant. He kept the books. He was a dad. He had those 10 children. Again, it's a family business. You need the family to run the business. Aside from running the mill and the general store, they also farmed over 750 acres. So you have that to do. So you had the chicken business where they ran a chicken farm and sold chicken under Hickory Farms Chicken. They had a plant business, Sunnyside Plant and Poultry Farms, where they shipped seedlings up and down the East Coast. So they were involved in a lot. And you need all these people to help run all the businesses.
Wow, got a lot going on. 750 acres. So he grew a lot of his own wheat and corn.
No, because they processed more than that. So he grew wheat and corn, and he did process his own, but he did mostly for local farmers. So Mr. Murray did not like chain grocery stores. Well, let's back up. He was a big fan of Teddy Roosevelt, who was into trust busting, and Mr. Murray didn't like the trusts either. That's kind of how he saw chains, is they put the local mom and pop stuff out of business. So he would only sell to the local mom and pop grocery stores. Now he did sell to Harris Teeter, but it's back when Harris Teeter was a mom and pop grocery store. So this is the bleacher or the mixer, depending on how you know it. With the addition of this machine, the Murrays could offer their customers 2 more products, bleached white flour and bleached self-rising flour. Now when I say bleached, I don't literally mean the liquid chlorine that goes in your laundry. What you're doing when you bleach flour is you're removing the color in the oil of the flour and you're fixing the acidity. If you've got good airflow and a good temperature, your brown whole wheat flour will turn itself white. But millers were looking for a way to do this in about 3 seconds, as opposed to having to wait a couple of months. There's a machine downstairs called the electrifier, and it added a spark to the air that it brought in, and that was pumped up here through a rubber hose. And why it's a good idea to have a spark-producing piece of machinery in the mill, I haven't figured out yet, but they did. Now later, they did use chlorine gas to bleach the flour, and that's when we had our only accident. The gas ate a hole in the rubber hose and leaked out into the building. The 2 gentlemen who were working in here barely made it out alive, but they did. And when Mr. Murray opened up the building a couple days later, he had found a new way to get rid of all the mice and rats. He said they piled up by the basketfuls. And that became his new extermination program. So every now and then he'd let the gas loose and then sweep up the mess. Let's see. So the bleacher made both self-rising and plain flour, not at the same time. It went down the same shaft, up the same elevator, but it was stored in 2 separate bins. So the first bin is self-rising, second bin is plain, and the third bin is bran. Up in the attic, there's a toggle switch. It goes that way to plain and that way to self-rising. Well, Mr. Murray tied a string to either end of the switch, ran it down a shaft to the first floor, so all he had to do to throw the switch was to pull the string. Now this is another one of his inventions. It's actually attached here to the weights, but because we don't have anything on the weights, it doesn't quite do what it used to. But it still makes noise. Better. So this room and the room with the photos were added in 1940 for animal feed. Because they were not original to the building, we took the machinery out to make our 2 gallery spaces. However, we did leave the animal feed storage bin. This thing is amazing. It is tongue and groove together, and it is also nailed all the way around. The whole building could fall apart, and this thing would probably still be hanging here in midair. And it's all supported by the top. It's not supported by the bottom. So if I took this shaft out, it would still hang. So then imagine, how much the wood weighs, and then you have a couple 100 pounds of animal feed in here as well. I think it's amazing.
Yes, absolutely is.
So the items we have here in the front are from the Dagenhart Mill. The Dagenhart Mill is no longer with us, but we have the pieces to show you that millers are using basically the same equipment. Around the room, we have bags from our mill and from other mills, visited by site managers such as myself, to show you that all of the mills are making basically the same product. So it's the little thing that the millers did differently that would cause you to take your grain to Mr. Murray's mill as opposed to Mr. Dagenhart's mill. It also depends on where you lived. Most mills were in their communities and they served folks within a 5-mile radius. But we do know that Mr. Murray had some customers from Catfish, which is up Highway 16 near the Oxford Dam, and at least one gentleman from the far side of Hickory. And they knew they could get a quality product at a fair price and moonshine. That's why the guy from Hickory came. And also the bag thing is an old Mills thing. Like, we all trade bags with each other. Like, Girl Scouts trade patches, military folks trade patches, Mills trade bags.
Yes, I always like the color and the artwork on the mill bags.
Yeah, although after a while you realize that everybody's using sort of like the same different parts and putting them together. So there's a grindstone, there's almost the exact same design of the corn that goes around the grindstone, and it's all just put together differently. So, but our brand is Snowdrift. I have 2 of our bags up here. And then I found this one in a Cracker Barrel, and I had to get it because it said Snowdrift.
How about that?
Let's see. This is a piece of our original 1940 water wheel. This is the one that was hanging on the side of the building when we got it in 1980. Actually, if you look at the holes in this versus the holes that we will have now, this one looks really good.
So you had to replace the whole wheel?
Just the bucket, so just this part. So the hub and the spokes that we have out there are from 1940, but the buckets around the outside are 1985.
So what did that cost you all to fix all that?
I should know, but I don't.
Quite
I know
a bit.
our current price tag is ballparked at around $200,000. Although Yates Mill in Raleigh just got their flume and water wheel redone, and theirs is wood, and it cost them $240,000. So it's an expensive endeavor.
Are they people that still specialize in fixing those, or you just have to get somebody that works in metal, or?
Yes, but it's a niche market. There's not that many folks out there who need a functioning water wheel. There are a couple of companies who do ornamental water wheels, but that's different from a functional water wheel. So, and actually James Leffel and Company out of Ohio, who is the competitor of Fitz Water Wheel, who made our water wheel, are still in business, but they mostly do turbines. And there's another company, I can't think of their name, but I'm not sure we can afford the big guys.
So what's with the different bottles here? What were these used for?
These are some of our Murray Moonshine bottles.
Murray Moonshine bottles?
So, now these are obviously modern ones. They're not originals, but you know, when the folks did moonshine, they would put it in basically whatever bottle they had, or the mason jars, but really it's whatever you have. But the jar down there actually came out of Mr. Murray's basement. It was given to me by his granddaughter, Lynn. She said she always remembered it in her grandpa's basement and that it was always full. Now, it was empty when she gave it to me, and she said she was going to clean it out, and everyone told her no. So inside is the residue of the last batch.
So he made moonshine and sold it, or?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't know what I'm talking about. So apparently it looks like he made moonshine at one time somewhere, maybe.
Now, I've been told that he kept his moonshine at 180 proof, so you don't need much, and that every day John had a toddy for his body, even while he was in the nursing home. John died 1 month shy of his 105th birthday in 1982, so hard work and a little moonshine didn't kill him.
Wow, he lived to 105 years old. How about that? Good for him.
Yeah. Actually, most of the Murrays make it to a late age, as long as nothing tragic happens to them.
Wow.
They tend to make it into their late 90s and up. So John still takes the cake at 1 month shy of 105, but he had a niece who was 104 and 3 months, and another one who was 101. The current oldest living Murray is Miss Rachel, and she is about to turn 95. So, and she doesn't mind if I tell you that. I asked.
This was used for moonshine, or what was this?
Wheat, corn.
Wheat, corn.
Wheat, corn.
So this
moonshine.
wouldn't hold water then, I don't guess.
No, well, it would have at one point.
It
It's
would
not
have,
swell.
okay.
Yep. And this is a wheelbarrow, right? It's wheels and you put a barrel on it.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Opposed to what we think of as a wheelbarrow.
That's a real wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
How about that? First time I've ever been shown that. So, Learning a lot today from you.
All of these machines that we have here are things that a farmer could have in his barn to clean his own grain. If you bring your grain to the mill clean, Mr. Murray would give you a better rate than if he had to clean it himself. And if you have all those children, you have somebody who can work these machines.
So they were hand crank on these?
Yep.
How about that?
Yep.
So
This
what
is-
year would this one date back to?
These are probably late 1800s, early 1900s, roughly. Like this is a rolling screen. This is a fanning mill. That's another rolling screen. This one is a corn sheller that also has an elevator on it, so you can take it and dump it in something else.
So these are pieces that you and some people's donated maybe over the years?
Yeah, I mean, we are a museum. We don't actively go out and collect, but like we don't necessarily discourage it. And when you own a mill, people like to give you mill-related stuff. So we have all of our stuff, and then we have more stuff that people have given us. So like all this extra stuff was not Mr. Murray's, and we have extra items sitting around downstairs that were not his. But they are important to the mill that other mills would have used. And like the Dagenhart mill, if we didn't have it, it wouldn't be here.
So that mill's completely gone now?
Yes. So our closest competition was actually Mr. Edwards' mill. He was upstream from us on the other side of Shiloh Road. His mill was destroyed by the 1916 flood, and it's completely gone. Foundations might be there if you know what you're looking at, but it's gone. We don't have anything from it except the toll box. So at least we have these pieces from the Dagenhart mill to show you and to preserve the memory of it. Mills used to be something you would find in every community. Every 5 to 10 miles there'd be another mill because folks couldn't go that far, whether it's horse and wagon, whether you're just coming in your horse. I met one gentleman who said when he was little, his mom would sit him on the horse, would tie 2 sacks of corn across the back of the horse, give him a whack. The horse walked all the way to Murray's mill. Mr. Murray took the corn off, ground it up, put it back on the horse, gave the horse a whack, and the horse walked all the way home. He said, I never had to get off the horse.
How about that? So I guess you get to hear quite a few stories of people coming and remembering the mill when it was operational.
Yeah, I've been lucky to meet lots of folks who either knew the Murrays, who actually came here as kids, at this point they'd be kids, who would come with their grandparents, who had stories that went with it. So, I mean, you never know who's going to show up, who's going to have what kind of story. And I try to write them down, document them, tell them if they will let me. I do have some stories where people have said, please don't tell this, but you can put it in your notes so that someday we can tell them. So, okay, I'm good with that. So they're just in the archives, and someday someone will read them, and long enough will have passed that it doesn't matter. So.
Gotcha. Statutes of limitations run out.
Yes, yes. Generally, it's once the people who are involved die, you can tell the story. Okay.
Something different here.
This is a cockler, and this is for seed wheat. So let's say you want to get your wheat clean so you can plant it again next year. You don't want to grind it up into flour. So Mr. Murray would run it through the cleaner in the attic. There's a switch up here. So he would flip the switch. It would come down the shaft and into the scalping shoe. That's what this box is called. Okay. And then it would come to the inside of the cockler. There's a tray or a trough that runs down the center. So this is a centrifuge, so these turn. And all of the bumps on the outside are little holes on the inside. So the little seeds and the other bits and pieces that you don't want would get stuck in the bumps, and your whole kernels would slide down the trough in the center, and then they come out on one of those other downspouts on the front porch.
Okay, so it's amazing how many different things they have to do.
Mm-hmm. And we have our fire hose here to show you that millers were really worried about a fire. Now, obviously, if there was a dust explosion, there's nothing a fire hose is going to do for it. But we have our big pond full of water, and if you can't get the water to the fire, it doesn't really matter. Mr. Murray's barn up on the top of the hill was struck by lightning in 1930s and burned down. So the barn that you see up there is his new 1930s barn, because he had a whole pond full of water, but he couldn't get the water to the fire.
Oh, wow, what's this piece?
That is a 1920 two-man gas-powered chainsaw. I was told it worked when they brought it in here, but I'm sure it needs a tune-up. But it's a pull-on. It's heavy.
Takes 2 people to operate that.
Yep.
That's an interesting piece. See a pulley out here. What's going on with these outside?
So the wheat house on the hill was built to store extra grain or damp grain. So if the bins in our basement here were full, Mr. Murray would have you take your wheat up there and he would store it in the wheat house. Well, inside the wheat house, there's a single grain elevator that took the wheat from the first floor up to the attic, where it dumped it in a pipe that came out the side of the attic, down the hill to the first floor of the mill. And that was all powered by the water wheel.
So there was a belt that went all the way over?
Yep, so that sort of flat pulley that's on the shaft there matches up with the big one here. And then there was a steel cable that went from the little one up to the wheat house where another belt took the power inside.
Okay, cable run across.
Yep.
Steel cable.
So he could get water power from his wheel all the way up the hill to the wheat house.
How about that?
Isn't that cool?
He's using it for his own. I don't see how it operated everything, so that's amazing.
So there's our big, beautiful pond. It's 28 acres as far as the surface area goes, and it's anywhere from 1 inch to 30 feet deep because the dam is 30 feet tall. Now, over time, it has silted in, so like right up next to the dam, you're only at about a little less than 15 feet. But once you get back here a little further, it is 30 feet.
Do you know what caused him to get into the mill business, or did he work for somebody else? How did he start this operation? Do you have any idea on that?
Let's see, William's dad, Lambert, was a miller back in Alamance County. And so when he came to Catawba County, it was a skill that he brought with him. And the 1870 census, I believe, I don't think it's the 1880 census, I think it's the 1870 census, lists Lambert as tending mill. So he was working at another mill here. So then when his kids, got older, they already had experience in the milling business. So, all right, let's go out and have a mill. So it really was the family business. So you're talking Lambert, William, John's son Lloyd. You had 4 generations of millers. And I don't know about Lambert's dad. I don't know what he did.
I've always been in business myself, so I'm always interested. I love businesses, documenting businesses, any type of businesses, and I'm always wondering what got them, into the business. So.
Yeah. See, I'm fascinated by what gets people to where they are.
Right, yeah.
Right, because the Murrays are from Alamance County. Well, how did they get to Catawba County? Or why did they come to Catawba County? Well, Lambert, after the Civil War, there was unrest in Alamance County. So Lambert decided he was going to get his family out of Dodge. And the reason he came to Catawba County is that he already knew somebody. He had met W.B. McAdams during the war, and his daughter, Mary Jane, ended up marrying him. And W.B. was from here. So Lambert came to Catawba County because he already had family in the area. It's supposed to rain today. No. Hey.
I always like the door handles. That one doesn't look quite original, maybe.
No, this is our original door and door handle.
Really?
Yep.
Looks in good shape. That's the reason I didn't think it was probably original.
Yep. So if you look at it, this is an ear of corn.
Oh, okay.
And then this is wheat on there.
How about that?
They don't make door handles like that anymore.
No.
So, anyway, so this is our 1890s general store. This room is the original building, and these are Mr. Murray's original shelves. And it was built across the street in front of where the mill is now. When they built the new mill, they had to get the store out of the way, so they put it on rollers, attached it to horses, and dragged it over here. But they couldn't turn the building around, so they took all the glass out of that wall and stuck it in this wall. And then Mr. Murray added the hole mostly for ventilation, but also if he was working upstairs, he'd keep an eye on his register. He didn't trust anybody, even in 1913. So in the store, we try to carry a mix of nostalgic and modern items, and we try to get items that are as close to home as possible. So the pickle guy lives down the street. Patriot jerky comes from Conover. The jams and jellies come from Hamptonville, which is North Carolina's Amish country. The coffee comes from Raleigh. Yeah, the coffee and the barbecue sauce come from Raleigh. The peanut butter comes from somewhere out there too. But most of our stuff is North Carolina products. Now, obviously, you can't get Vermont maple syrup in North Carolina. But, our pottery is from local potters. We had our pottery festival last weekend at the Hickory Convention Center. And so we went shopping and picked up some items for folks who couldn't make it to Pottery Festival, so they could still come here and purchase some. And we have a thing for honeybees because our miller is president of the Beekeepers Association. And so we try to get lots of stuff with honeybees on it. And then we also carry his honey in the store because honey is only good when it's local.
So you called him your miller?
Yes.
And what's that mean?
Jonathan Lutz is our official miller. So he is the one who runs the mill when we grind. Now, he is not the only miller. He's got the official miller title. So when Mr. Murray did this, Mr. Murray was the miller and other folks worked with him. And then when
So is that open to the public to watch that when you do the milling?
Yep.
They come and buy a ticket and can come through the tour, or how that work?
Actually, it's free to see it on the days that we're milling because we want you to come and see it in operation. We want you to ask questions and learn about it. And we are always looking for folks who are interested in helping us because running an old mill is not a skill you can go and learn. You have to learn it from another miller. I mean, you can go to school and you can get all the milling theory and moisture content in the grain and all that stuff that you want. But to actually run an old mill, you have to go and do it.
And you say that's on the third Sunday of every month?
Yep. Third Sunday of the month when it's warmer.
When it's warmer?
So our first milling day this year will be April 16th.
April 16th, and then...
And then whatever the third Sunday is in May.
Okay.
I ain't got that far.
Well, we might try to make it back on the third Sunday in May. That would be interesting, seeing everything working.
Now, sometimes Mill Around Sunday, we call it Mill Around Sundays, turns into let's repair the mill Sunday because we still have to do maintenance on him. And one year he had a leak in the grindstones. Well, the grindstones themselves don't leak, but it was the packing between the grindstone and the floor that leaked. And so instead of the cornmeal going out the front and into the trough, it went down to the basement and it looked like it was snowing, which made a mess. So instead of grinding the next month, we had to stop and repair it. So when you come to visit, you get to see how you would take care of an old mill.
Let's go over your toys just a little bit right there, some of the toys that you sell, the souvenir gift items, I guess is what they would be called.
So we do have a source for vintage toys. These are toys that don't need a battery. They don't need to be plugged in. You can play with them in the dark. They're balloon powered, people powered. You can take them outside. You know, we try to go for the nostalgic stuff when we can find it. And kids are ecstatic. And adults are ecstatic because they remember it. And they want to do it. There was a gentleman in here yesterday who saw the gyro wheel and said his grandmother had had one growing up. And so he bought one. And then he came back half an hour later and bought 2 more for his niece and nephew. He's like, they need this. They're never going to see it. So we have birdhouse kits and toolboxes that are done by a local Boy Scout group. So we sell those for them. We do consignments from local crafts people. So we love items that are handmade, especially if they're local, because it supports the local community. We don't have to pay shipping on it. Like, stuff comes. So that's what our back room is those are all items done by different local folks. And we have lots of talented people in this area. Like, it's amazing the amount of talent that has come out for this.
Moonshine Mountain Soap Company.
He puts a little bit of moonshine in every batch.
Well, so yeah, I see you got different items here.
Yep, we have 3 different wood turners, and they each do something that's unique. So I try not to double up on consigners because I don't think it's fair. But you know, as long as everybody has something that's unique. Like Jim started with us back in 2020. He's retired, he lives in Statesville, and he just turns wood for fun. He taught himself how to do it on YouTube. And his garage was full of all of his creations, and he ran out of places to put stuff. So however it was that we found each other, he started bringing us items to sell. And by the end of 2020, we had cleaned out his entire garage, and he couldn't keep up. He goes, man, I'm going to turn this in on my taxes. But like box elder, the redwood, is what he's known for. So not all of his stuff is box elder, but a lot of it is. And they're just pretty simple, functional bowls. Let's see, Amelia Akers is one of our soap makers. She raises her own goats and makes her own soap.
Well, how about that?
So, Zeddy is the little girl who does these items. She was 7 when she started with us. She's 9 or 10 now. I'm not sure. But she just, our grandmother gave her a sewing machine and she started sewing and she did really well.
Lions Club brooms.
Yep. Those are the best brooms ever.
So I can see that we talked about the potbelly stove a little bit yesterday. That's something that you continue to use today. And I was telling you that
Yes.
it's rare to find a place that actually still has one that's in use. So,
Well, our stove is not original to us. It came from the old train station up in Boone. The train station was put out of business by the 1940 flood. They got the people out, but it took them 6 months to get the engine out, and they never put the train station back in operation. So I don't know what happened to the stove between 1940 and 1980, but there it is. And it will heat the whole building and then some. I've had various coworkers who take that statement literally, which is not generally how we want to run it. We use it as supplemental heat. We do have central. But there's nothing like the smell of a fire, the sound of a crackling fire, and it does give off a nice warmth.
it does, absolutely. So this extra part was added on for a candy store, you said, at one time? Or?
So this side was added in the 1930s for the Catawba Candy Company. They ran their warehouse out of here. So it has the loading dock out front where you could wheel out the items and load it in the back of your truck or your wagon, depending on how you showed up. And then they also use this side for animal feed as well because it has the loading dock out front.
So they made candy here?
This was just the warehouse, so we were a distributor for them. The Catawba Candy Company is still around. Where did I see it? Family Dollar? Dollar General? One of the dollar stores.
Oh, really?
Carries the Catawba Candy Company. Michelle actually found it first and brought me the wrapper, and I'm like, oh! So we went looking to see if it really was our Catawba Candy Company. And the history I found of them just said that they started in North Carolina back in the 30s. I'm like, I bet that's us. So it's just cool to think that it's still out there.
Yeah, so they started in this part here when this was built on. I'm still a little confused. You was talking about animal feed and then...
Well, I know that we were a warehouse for the Catawba Candy Company, so I don't know if that means that we were like a franchise or we were just storage space. We didn't actually make the candy here.
Okay, I got you, I understand. So they might have used it to distribute it or whatever.
Yeah, but we do have one canceled check in our collection from the Catawba Candy Company.
Okay.
So.
And we was talking to you, showed me this yesterday. This would have been a counter out of another building somewhere else?
Yes, because we didn't point it out over there. The 2 counters that you saw in the mill when we walked in the front door,
okay, yeah.
Those are our original general store counters.
Okay,
Yep.
and they're over there. And these are...
and these windows would have had seeds and beans in them. Just one I took out. Whee! And the backs are adjustable depending on what you have to put in it. So you can change the depth of the windows, whether you're using peanuts or split peas. Peanuts take up a lot more room than split peas.
So that was a display, and they maybe kept the beans behind the counter underneath it, you think?
Yep.
Or somewhere?
There's 2 large drawers up to here, and then this side has 3 drawers. So this shows you what's in those 2 drawers, and that's what's in those 3 drawers.
Okay. Yeah, I've never really... I've seen some in a picture somewhere, or somewhere I've seen one, but never one this big. This has got quite a few displays in it.
Yep. Now we have another counter, which may or may not have come from the same store that this one came from, where instead of them being 3 little windows, it's 3 windows here. But it's the same idea. It's got 3 drawers on this side and 2 drawers on that side. And it's all one piece, by the way. This is one thing. So if you're going to move it, you're moving one. Like, it doesn't come apart in the middle.
Okay. Got some candy over here, I see.
Yep. We try to keep a mix of modern and nostalgic candy because kids don't like Bit of Honey and Mary Jane's, but their parents do.
And you said you sell mainly only glass sodas?
Yep. Glass bottled sodas is all we do. That's our niche. Mr. Murray would not have sold plastic. They did sell glass bottled sodas. They are actually related to Pepsi. And so we definitely sold Pepsi here.
Okay. You've got some stuff for sale here. Is this, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. This is stuff that y'all milled here?
Yes.
And Let me open that up so we can see that just a little bit
Other
better.
side.
Other side? Okay.
So, but we also have local farm fresh eggs. So for people who can't find eggs,
I see this one has a label that looks like it's put on it.
yes, we ran out of stickers. That's why those just have the yellow cornmeal stamp.
Ran out of stickers, okay.
Ran out of stickers.
Then I was looking at your Coca-Cola cooler.
Yep.
That's quite a big one. I've seen several there. This one's got two lids, I noticed, so you can get to the back.
So you can open the front or the back.
Yeah.
And so you could have it in the center of your store as opposed to...
Oh, okay, so it's two-sided, I see
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Yeah, on this side it has the Coca-Cola too. Yeah. Well,
yeah, but the other the other one has the double lid on it, but does it say Coke on the back? Honestly, can't remember.
Yes, this one does. You can see it.
I'm trying to decide if the little one does.
Well, that one we can't see,
I don't
but
know.
it might.
I can't remember. So right now our two Coke coolers are taking a winter break because this is the end of the off season. Now in the summer, both of those will be full of sodas as well.
Okay, so during tourist season, starting about June through the fall, you get pretty busy?
No, it's more like middle to the end of April, depending on the weather,
Okay.
through usually the first couple weeks in December. Again, depending on the weather.
Oh, okay, great.
So this is O.D. Murray. He is the Mr. Murray who ran the store. And that is the last photograph that was taken of him. It was taken on Mother's Day in 1935. He is standing in the field across the street from his house, and that is clover. So he is knee-deep in clover.
So he lived to what year?
He actually died young. He was 63? 67. When was he born? 1873.
So O.D. was, and then John was his son?
John was his brother.
His brother.
Yep. So
Okay.
O.D.'s the oldest brother, and then John's
So
the
there were
the
two
next one.
brothers.
There were two brothers.
Okay, but
Yes.
John lived to be 105. And what
Yes.
year did he pass away?
1982.
1982.
Yep.
Did you ever have any pictures of him?
I do. I don't have any out, but yeah, we do have a number of pictures of him.
Okay.
The two photos that we have of O.D. were given to us by O.D.'s family, and we have them out in the store because this was his store.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and like looking at this picture, you've heard the phrase, you're in high cotton.
Uh-huh.
We prefer the phrase high clover.
High clover. Yeah, that's a good picture. How about that? Well, Jennifer, we had a few things more that you was telling us about. You was telling us about this road right here when the mill was open. Tell us about that.
So this is the original road. This was Route 2 Catawba, which is now Murray's Mill Road. And 100 years ago, this was the happening place to be. So you would have people lined up for 2 miles in either direction waiting to have their grain ground. So while the farmers are standing in line with their horses and their mules, the ladies would come over to the general store and go shopping since they weren't allowed in the mill.
Yeah, and so also they had a telephone here.
That's right, Mr. Murray did have a telephone and he would take messages or he would send messages for you, and it was 10 cents a piece to get your messages.
How about that? Could you actually use the phone though, or did just messages that they would take?
Knowing him, he would probably just take the messages.
So he made 10 cents a call or a message.
Yep.
Well, we're going to try to come back at some point to when that you're actually running the mill. I think people would like to see that. So
It's a lot of fun.
we appreciate your time and tour and giving us a host here to stay with our RV, and we've had a good time.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you then.